I've had the pleasure of meeting maybe 100 people plus who are making 100K a month. And I have observed one key character trait over all of them, which has caused them to be so successful. And there's one key trait that I've seen across all of them. And this is something that I didn't used to have a control over, and now I have an incredible control over. And it has been the only reason that I've been able to scale my business so quickly to that 6 figures in 105 days. And it is literally having control over one thing: dopamine. And in this video, I'm going to go through exactly why your lack of control over your dopamine is causing your business to stagnate, and exactly how you can get control of it. I'm going to explain literally tangible tips as to how I've got control over my dopamine, and explain to you in depth and give you a clear understanding of why your lack of control over your dopamine is basically causing you to not be in the place you want to be. And I want you to be in the place you want to be. So let's get into the video. I'm going to explain exactly how it starts. And you'll know of the concept of deep work, right? I don't need to explain to you about the importance of deep work, but very quickly, the importance of kind of why deep work is key in entrepreneurship is because we need to enter periods, literally hours of intense focus in order to move our business in the right direction. That is the difference between us and people sat in offices. Is people sat in offices, they can kind of get away with being 60, 70% in. To build an incredible business and to build the life you want, you have to be able to focus incredibly hard. And the problem with this whole dopamine thing is dopamine is literally the enemy of this happening. So dopamine, or your lack of ability to control your dopamine, is literally the enemy of this happening. And I'm going to explain to you why. Because the thing is, there are so many temptations around you right now. Like, you could scroll on your phone, you could click off this video, and you could go and scroll on your phone. You could go downstairs and have a bar of chocolate. You could go and watch a TV show. There are literally hundreds of distractions in the modern world. But the problem with that is all these hundreds of distractions have absolutely fried our brain to the point where we can't focus on anything. And you'll know this through social media, right? But this is what the dopamine levels in our days look like, right? They look like this, because what happens is we wake up in the morning and our dopamine levels are super low. But then what happens is you open your phone and maybe, you scroll, and your brain immediately is getting absolutely buzzed by this device, which is literally programmed to fry your dopamine receptors, to go give you entertainment. And if you don't enjoy your entertainment, you get another one. Scroll. And then what happens is, after that, you get an incredible lull. You know that feeling after you've just scrolled? You just feel like you've been absolutely fried. And then you say to yourself, okay, well, it's the next thing. So I'm going to go and, maybe watch a incredibly stimulating TV show or YouTube video. And then you're like, all right, I'm going to do that. And your dopamine suddenly goes up again. And then you get to feeling an incredible lull again, because you've just fried your brain again. Your brain is used to being in the wild, not used to having incredible amounts of TikTok dances thrown at you, and then the most dramatic, stimulating, emotional TV programs thrown at you. So you then feel a lull again. And then what happens is, after that, you then, go and eat a donut, for example. So you then go and eat a donut, and your brain is used to whole natural foods. And instead you're feeding it this intense sugar. It's basically this intense sugar, and you give it another dopamine hit. And the problem is, what you're doing is you're training your brain up here to crave these feelings, because you're literally giving it overstimulation, the most intense amount of joy. How does this relate to deep work? Well, the problem is you raise your dopamine baseline. You raise what your brain wants to hear. And I'm not pretending this is some sort of science thing, right? I'm not an expert on dopamine as such, but I know this is true in terms of the fact that you think about it, your brain just goes, all I want is to be able to just feel that scrolling feeling again, because that was unbelievable. And then the problem with that, and this is how this relates to deep work, is it now views deep work here. Because deep work is not stimulating. You don't get an intense rush of dopamine when you do deep work. And especially when your baseline is so high like this, your baseline is like, your baseline is so used to basically thinking, okay, these are the highs that I've experienced. These are the scrolls and the TVs and the donuts. These are the incredible feelings that I have. Then why the hell when I have to sit down and go and review my DM conversations or go and build out a sales pipeline, and I sit down and do deep work, your brain is just going, what the hell are you doing? This is so boring. This is the worst thing ever. This gap here that you feel, like the difference in how you feel during deep work, and then this is how you actually feel watching TV and scrolling. This difference is so big that it's like, no, your brain just doesn't want to do it. And that's the first reason why all of these temptations that you've got and all of the basic, all of these activities that you do are just ruining your ability to do deep work. And there's a guy called Cal Newport who talks about deep work, and it's an incredible book. And he talks about the importance of deep work, about putting your brain into this flow state where you're able to just for 2 hours be have no loss of concentration. And it's all because one of the biggest things that he talks about is getting rid of the phone, is getting rid of these distractions, because all your brain sits there and thinks when you're in the kind of first 10 minutes of deep work is, I could just go and scroll on my phone. That'd be much more enjoyable. I'd get that amazing dopamine fix. So that is the first almost negative of deep work, is the problem with the problem with dopamine, and the reason why you're really struggling to grow that business is because your brain just basically constantly is saying, I don't want to grow this business. What I want to do is I want to do all these unbelievable dopamine filling activities that in the short term feel amazing, but in the long term, they're going to do absolutely nothing for your business. So that's the first thing, is you can't do any deep work. The second thing is the problem with dopamine, and why dopamine is ruining the chances of you building an online business, is because you reward poor behaviors with dopamine. Poor rewards. And I can tell you about this, exactly a story how I do this. So what happens is I've had a week or two of less closes than I would like, and I, after a closing call, will go and I'll go and have some food, and I'll be like, okay, I'm going to make myself feel a little bit better because I didn't close. I need to go and kind of comfort myself. And the problem with that is I associate that, so not closing, I associate not closing with food. And this food is not normally, it's not like, when I don't close, it's not that I go and have like a lovely tender steak. I have chocolate, I have like a burger, or my brain at least wants that, right? Like that's what my brain is telling me, no close, food, chocolate, burger. And then the other thing is that you are like, say you're in deep work and you get distracted. You then go and scroll on your phone. And the problem with this is both of these are rewarding poor behaviors. If your outcome is wanting to grow your business, which I think if you're watching this video it is, then if your outcome is you want to grow your business, then this is not good and getting distracted is not good. But the problem is, as opposed to blocking these things, you actually reward them with dopamine. And the thing that's making you struggle right now is then you get to the point where your brain goes, okay, so if I don't close, I get this massive hit of dopamine. If I get distracted, I'll go and scroll on my phone. So both of those are not de-incentivized. In fact, the problem is you're rewarding these with high dopamine activities. And you talk about that graph that we just saw, and that graph shows exactly why you can't be rewarding these poor things with these poor like inputs or outcomes with these inputs, because the problem is you get to the point where you're literally saying, okay, well, if I don't close, life's great. I'm then going to go and have a chocolate and a burger. And your brain goes, okay, I'm happy with not closing. I'm happy with getting distracted because I have my phone sorted. And what we need to do is we need to get to the point where you don't reward poor activities. There's no reward for lack of success here. Instead, we reward great activities, so we celebrate our wins. And when I used to play rugby, we used to have a great saying, which is, when we didn't win, we would all go home and we would be like, okay, like that's not a great outcome. But when we did win, every single person would go and say, celebrate your wins, celebrate your wins. And yes, it might have been with alcohol, which is not necessarily something that I'm too keen on now, but celebrate your wins is such a good thing, because if you then reward good behavior, like behavior that is good, for example, closing, for example, working hard with a reward, then what your brain does is then associates doing that with the reward. And yes, there are problems, because then you become externally motivated with that. But my God, it's better than rewarding bad outcomes with this. So that's the other thing about dopamine, is you're basically training your brain to accept bad outcomes for these rewards. So that's another reason why you're struggling to kind of grow that business there, because at that point of doing bad things, you then don't get the reward. So that's the second thing that I found, is that I was like rewarding myself poorly. But the biggest thing, and you'll see if you watch my channel a lot, you'll see that I talk about this, which is gratification. And you can either yearn short-term gratification or long-term gratification. And the problem with dopamine is all it does is it rewards short-term gratification. If you go and eat the donut, if you go and scroll on your phone, you are frying your brain with dopamine, like short-term dopamine. And you're frying yourself with short-term gratification, because you can all of a sudden go and feel amazing. Like you're literally pressing a button like this, and that button makes you feel amazing. And the problem with that is our brain wants that, because our brain thinks that the short-term, wins are amazing. But the problem with that is it literally like removes the ability to work in a long-term way. And we need to make long-term sacrifices, long-term. We need to think in a long-term way, because the problem is our brain doesn't want to think in a long-term way. Our brain doesn't want to, because of all these dopamine distractions, our brain doesn't want to say, okay, if you sit and do deep work now, then in 2 weeks' time, you're going to be able to have as many donuts as you want. It thinks, let me just get donut now. I want donut now. So there's a few things that I found that cause us our inability to or like a few examples that I've seen in my life. The first thing is, I'm sure you're used to like flicking up and checking your likes and your comments. That's a great example of short-term gratification. We'll go short-term. So that's a great example of short-term gratification, because our dopamine feels great when we go and scroll and we go and see our likes. Another thing that I've seen a load of entrepreneurs do is they go and tell everyone that they're locking in. And that's another thing that is a short term, because you feel great. You're like, oh, I'm locking in. And everyone's like, oh, yeah, he's locking in. Amazing. And that's short term gratification. And another thing that I see is people like checking the money they've made, like constantly going and flicking up and checking on Stripe or on Shopify, like how much money they've made. And that is all examples of short-term gratification, because the problem is you're rewarding your dopamine. Your body is craving dopamine, and you're rewarding it in a short-term way. But the problem is none of those, all of those things that I've mentioned, checking money, checking views and likes, and telling people you're doing your deep work, none of them actually cause the outcome that we want, that you want, that we want, which is growing the business and building a business that you like. All of them are just making your little dopamine receptors feel much better. Whereas in the long term, what you have to do is you have to remove your interest in dopamine, because you don't want to reward yourself in the short term. You want to almost punish yourself or almost remove your dopamine obsession in the short term, so that in the long term you can like achieve the things that you want to. Because those things with checking your likes, those things with checking the money you've made, they'll go away because of the fact that you're not doing these long-term behaviors. And I guess I use like a metaphor, which is going to the gym, right? Like you could go and take a topless selfie in the gym, and people love doing that because it gives them like short-term gratification because you're looking great, right? But the problem is that's not actually going to get you looking good in the mirror. That's like an outcome-based metric. Whereas the long-term gratification is to not go and check yourself in the mirror, and it's to actually go and do some pull-ups. It's to actually go and do some squats, because and then you will be able to go and check yourself in the mirror at some point. But those are the activities that you need to be doing in order to achieve what you want. And your dopamine is screaming at you. It's screaming at you to go and check yourself in the mirror. But what you have to do is you have to suppress that dopamine in order to actually achieve the short term. So basically, to sum up that third point is that your desire for short-term gratification, your desire for short-term wins is actually impacting your long-term success. And they're the things that, I'm not perfect at, but I've definitely been able to control more, is that, I've made a lot less money in the last 2 weeks compared to the revenue that we were bringing in before. But it doesn't change because I don't think in a short-term way. I don't look at the money coming into my bank account and go, this is great, this is what I want. I actually just look at it and go, great, okay, cool, like next job sort of thing. I'm thinking long term. I'm thinking about sitting and filming this YouTube video because I know that in the future that will cause it. And I want to go through and explain like some of the actual things that I've done to help me and like be super tangible about how I've managed to cure this, because all I've done right now is I've just given you all the reasons why you need to basically not be addicted to dopamine. I hope I've been clear on that, but all of those, so I guess to be clear, I've got my notes here, like the ability for you to deep work is that your addiction to dopamine is causing that. You're rewarding your poor behaviors and also you're craving short-term gratification over long-term reward. And okay, so they're the three things, but I want to talk about some super tangible things. So the first thing that I did is I removed all notifications. Like I literally have no notifications on my phone at all. Like it's the morning now and I've got my do not disturb on, but I literally turn off like all my notifications apart from like my work colleagues. But then I literally have that like do not disturb on the whole time. And that means that I only want to be distracted by people when I give them the permission to. Like I don't want someone to be able to like, imagine if you just had someone like who could interrupt you whenever you wanted in your life. You wouldn't take it, right? So get rid of all your notifications because you don't want to give someone the permission to be able to interrupt you and ruin your flow and give you that short dopamine kick of messaging you, because it's affecting your ability to concentrate and it's constantly frying your brain. It's constantly giving your brain little rewards of people messaging you and it kills you. So that is one of the biggest hacks that I've done. And it all starts with like, I just got rid of my Instagram messages and you think your life's gonna fall apart, but you realize like, it actually doesn't matter that much. People will only contact you if they actually want to contact you. So that's the first thing that I did. And the second thing is I got rid of food and coffee in my house. So one of the biggest things that I found, this was a personal thing for me, is when I was sitting at my desk trying to work incredibly hard, all I could think about was the lovely coffee that I had waiting for me downstairs, or maybe that like, that peanut butter or that yogurt waiting for me in the fridge. And the fact that I had that like literally 10 meters away from me, like a 5-second walk away from me, meant that I was like, oh man, like all I want is to just go and stop doing that and to go downstairs and basically get that. And I got rid of that. And let me tell you a quick story, because I got super fat in my A-levels because of the fact that I had chocolate just sitting downstairs, like waiting for me. And I basically was just so obsessed with like that chocolate and not doing the work that all I could think about while I was sitting there doing my work is going to get that chocolate. So I'd reward myself every 20 minutes or half an hour of working hard with the chocolate, and I got incredibly fat because of it. So I basically removed all food and coffee in my house. And if I want a coffee, then I have to go and order it. I have to walk out and go and get it. And that's obviously like the friction causes me to want it less, and then the food means that I either order. I'm very fortunate in Bali that I can order everything, but if not, then I guess maybe your solution to that would be only have food which you can't easily eat, so like not snacky food, so maybe like raw chicken breast, because you're not going to go downstairs and just start munching on raw chicken breast. The other thing that worked really well for me is living alone, because the problem with your dopamine receptors is they get fried by yourself, but they also get fried by other people. You don't want to be living around people who are high dopamine people who are obsessed with scrolling on their phone, people who want to go out all the time, people who want to eat unhealthy food, because what that's going to do is it's going to mean that you feel like your dopamine levels or your baseline dopamine levels on the constant are going to be high. You're just constantly going to fry your brain along with them. So I lived alone for ages, and that helped me big time, because it helped me basically cure my dopamine receptors and basically be accepting of a slow, steady state. and it allowed me to basically remove those people. So I say live alone, but also like the asterisk is all with low dopamine people. You basically just don't want to be surrounding yourselves with dopamine monkeys. That's a big thing for me, and I've definitely seen the effects of both on me. Okay, this one, no porn, no alcohol, no smoking. These are like, I just think they're non-negotiables. Like, it is like, I still cannot believe that people like, I can't believe people drink. I'll drink very, very rarely, but even when I do, like, I just feel like I feel fried because of how much like dopamine I've got into my system. It almost makes me feel like sick to go and drink now, because I'm just happy just chilling and having a coffee someone with like that gives me enough dopamine. No smoking and no porn. Like, they're all things that are designed to absolutely fry your dopamine, and all of them are going to set your baseline way too high to the point where you're like, okay, I can't do any work. I can't concentrate on anything. So that works. I'm not going to pretend that I don't use social media, because I want to keep up with my friends, but more importantly, like, I kind of have to for my job. I have to kind of understand what trends are working and what to post myself. And I make sure that I have very structured scrolls. So I don't scroll social media normally, but what I do is I like give myself a half an hour window, and I then scroll social media for half an hour and then get my ideas from it, and then I leave it alone. I don't touch it again. Again, that helps. I think I've deleted Instagram, I've deleted LinkedIn, I've deleted X, I've deleted Facebook. I only have, and TikTok, I only have Instagram, and I only have YouTube, and each time I'm structured. I'm not allowing myself to just like fall into those habits. So structured scrolls really work really well. If you're watching this and your job is not on social media and nothing to do with your like work is on social media, I would generally delete all social media. YouTube I think is really good because I think it's really like educational, but I would get rid of everything else because they're literally designed by scientists to fry your dopamine. That's the whole point. They're meant to make you incredibly happy. Okay, routine. This is a humongous one. Like, as soon as I fall out of routine, I feel my dopamine going all over the place because of the fact that you give your brain so many more like chances to be able to like give itself dopamine. So, like, one of the biggest things that I found that cured my dopamine is by giving myself a routine, and the routine is no meetings before 12. That routine has helped me basically know that in my brain, I am literally not gonna, like in my brain, I know that nothing is happening before 12 other than work. So my brain knows not to start demanding for me to go and get a lovely pastry, or maybe, I don't know, go and get a beautiful coffee. All I'm thinking before 12 is I'm working. And then after that, the meetings part helps because meetings absolutely throw you all around the place and it breaks you out of routine. So that's helped a lot. And also exercise before 12. So that's the other thing is like, I try and get exercise in like before 12, but around then. And I know that that's my routine because again, exercise is a great thing that is not frying your dopamine. It's actually a super healthy, like long-term gratification thing. So making sure that I exercise all the time. So this helps really nicely. Another thing I'll put in my routine is like, I also give myself like the food rule, which is I've often said to myself, like, I need to get a few tasks done and I'm not going to eat lunch until I get those tasks done. And that helps a lot because it allows me to say, okay, like, I know that my reward is coming, but my reward is not coming until I've done this. And then my brain goes, okay, it's time to do this so you can get the reward. So that helps a lot as well. So that's like the key things of my routine. But I guess the other thing is just like healthy rewards, because I've managed, and one of my friends once said this to me, he said, I can't eat sugar anymore because it makes me feel genuinely sick. Like, you have a cookie and it makes him feel genuinely sick. And I loved that as a thing because now it's got to the point where I like the best reward that I feel like I can have right now is like a little bit of fruit. Like, I feel amazing. Like, if you give me some good papaya, I'm like, wow, that is like that. My brain is loving that. So like fruit, water, exercise, like drinking like a cup of coffee, healthy sex, like all of those things are healthy rewards. And I use them as my rewards as opposed to the rewards of scrolling, eating shit food, watching TV. My rewards of a good day is like, let's go and reward yourself with like a cup of coffee. And that is like the way that I've basically being able to reward myself in a nice way, as opposed to giving myself awful rewards that then start the awful like chain of feeling awful for yourself. So basically, in a nut scratch, that's exactly like the list of things that I've done to cure my dopamine. And now I look forward to work, because my dopamine is like, if your dopamine suspect drawing, but if your dopamine is like here, I've been able to get my dopamine down here, or my acceptable level of dopamine down here, so that when I do deep work, because I've got rid of all these things, I'm like, oh, this is pretty exciting. Like, I couldn't think of anything better than filming a YouTube video, because it's like, okay, this is when I get to hit my high of the day. Like, that's my high of the day, not these like incredibly stimulating activities that absolutely kill me. So yeah, that's how to cure your dopamine. Please cure your dopamine. It'll help you scale your online business. And thanks for watching.